Hey everyone, get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into the whirlwind of American politics on an amazing journey through a century of history, the kind that shook things up and shaped the USA as we know it today. From 1920 to 2020, the US saw it all. World wars that redefined the planet, economic crises that tested the nation's soul, social advancements that took decades of struggle, and technologies that changed the way we live. And in the eye of this hurricane, there they were, the presidents. But we're not talking about just anyone, no. In this video, we're going to meet the top 10 US presidents who did the most for the country. The guys who didn't just occupy the White House, but left their mark on history. If the guy worked hard, boosted the economy, united the people, won wars, or put the US on top of the world, he has a guaranteed spot in this ranking. So grab your popcorn and get comfortable, because this journey is going to be epic! It might not seem like much, just one term, but believe me, in 4 years, George H.W. Bush Sr. proved that time isn't everything. Just imagine, the world on the brink of collapse, the Cold War breathing its last, and there he is, in the Oval Office, with the responsibility of guiding the U.S. into an uncertain future. And how did he handle this ticking time bomb, with the coolness of a professional poker player and the finesse of a seasoned diplomat? Bush Sr. led the international coalition in the Gulf War, stopping Saddam Hussein's excessive ambitions in the Middle East, but he didn't stop there. With mastery, he led the U.S. through the historic moment of the fall of the Berlin Wall, the reunification of Germany, and the collapse of the Soviet Union. In short, friends, Bush Sr. was the conductor of the transition to a new world order, where the U.S. emerged as the sole global superpower. His skill in building alliances and his precise foreign policy secured a prominent place for Americans on the international stage at a time of seismic change. If you've ever driven across the US, enjoying the freedom of the open road on one of those endless highways, then, my friend, you have to thank this guy, Dwight D. Eisenhower. This five-star general, a World War II hero, traded the battlefield for the Oval Office and proved that it was possible to win the war for prosperity. During his 2 terms, Eisenhower not only kept the Soviets in check during the tense years of the Cold War, but also launched one of the largest public works projects in history, the interstate highway system. Imagine the size of that job. But he didn't stop there. With a calm and pragmatic style, typical of someone who commanded armies, Eisenhower kept the country united and on the path to growth. And there's more. This president, who many considered a tough guy, played a crucial role in the civil rights movement. At a time of great racial tension, he didn't hesitate to send troops to ensure that black students could attend schools previously restricted to whites in the South. Eisenhower, my friends, was a leader for all times, firm when necessary, but always seeking dialogue and justice. Lyndon B. Johnson, the famous LBJ, is one of those guys who goes down in history for changing people's lives for the better. And he did this at a crucial moment, when the U.S. was buzzing with the fight for civil rights. Johnson not only signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a milestone in the fight against racial segregation, but also launched an ambitious program, the Great Society. Imagine a package of measures that revolutionized social welfare in the U.S., expanding access to healthcare, education, and fighting poverty head-on. Yeah, my friends, LBJ wasn't messing around. He understood that a strong and fair country needs to take care of all its citizens, and his determination to create a more equal society left a deep mark on the U.S. Of course, not everything was rosy in the Johnson administration. The Vietnam War, a bloody and controversial conflict, cast a shadow over his legacy. But, despite the criticism and the challenges, it's undeniable that America became a more just and inclusive place thanks to LBJ's visionary policies. Get ready for a surprise, because the next name on our list is Calvin Coolidge. That's right, the president who believed that the business of America is business, and who was known for his small government policies. It may seem strange, but it was during Coolidge's time in office that the U.S. embarked on a period of rapid economic growth, the Roaring Twenties. Coolidge was a staunch Republican, one of those who believed that the best way to boost the economy was to get the government out of the way of entrepreneurship. And that's exactly what he did. During his presidency, taxes were cut, government spending was slashed, and the private sector had the freedom to innovate and grow. Of course, history is full of ironies, and Coolidge's era of prosperity eventually led to the Great Depression. But it's undeniable that his liberal policies helped pave the way for the industrial and technological rise of the U.S. in the following decades. Have you ever thought about how hard it is to make decisions that could change the course of history? Well, that was the everyday life of Harry S. Truman, the man who became president after Roosevelt died in a world still on fire after World War II. And he had no time to breathe, my friends, because history waits for no one. Right off the bat, Truman faced a tough moral and strategic choice: whether or not to use the newly created atomic bombs to force Japan to surrender and end the war once and for all. The decision, as we know, was made, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki will never be forgotten. But the weight of history didn't stop there. Truman also had to deal with the growing threat of communism, led by the Soviet Union. And that's where he showed the world what he was made of. He launched the Truman Doctrine, which basically set American foreign policy for the next few decades, and created the Marshall Plan, a big program that helped rebuild Western Europe and cemented America's leadership in the world. In the 1980s, the United States needed a leader who could bring back the people's confidence, and that's when Ronald Reagan came onto the scene. With his undeniable charisma and speeches that mixed patriotism, traditional values, and the promise of a bright future, Reagan won over America and left his mark on history. He wasn't an economist, but his economic policy, nicknamed Reaganomics, became a benchmark. Reagan supported tax cuts, deregulation of the economy, and a strong fight against inflation. His critics argued that his policies benefited the rich and increased inequality, but it's undeniable that the American economy bounced back under his leadership, and Reagan didn't just leave his mark on the economy. In geopolitics, he took a tough stance against the Soviet Union, investing heavily in the arms race and openly challenging the communist regime. Many historians believe Reagan's firm stance was crucial to the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet bloc. In 2009, the world watched nervously as the first black president of the United States, Barack Obama, was sworn in. America, still reeling from the biggest economic crisis since 1929, placed its hopes for change in the young senator from Illinois. And Obama, with his undeniable charisma and inspiring speeches, promised to unite the country and face the challenges with courage and determination. Right off the bat, Obama had to deal with the economic crisis that threatened to push the U.S. to the brink. With a multi-billion-dollar economic stimulus plan, he managed to prevent the collapse of the financial system and put the American economy back on track. But Obama didn't just put out fires, he also left a lasting legacy in social issues. The Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare, was one of his signature achievements. The program, which expanded access to healthcare for millions of Americans, faced strong opposition from the right, but became a landmark in the history of public health in the U.S. In addition, Obama stood out for his foreign policy, seeking to restore the image of the U.S. on the international stage after the Bush years. We come now to one of the giants of American history, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. He led the U.S. for 12 years, a turbulent time that included the Great Depression and World War II. And believe me, few leaders had such a deep and lasting impact on the lives of Americans as he did. Just imagine, the U.S. deep in the worst economic crisis in its history, with millions unemployed, businesses failing, and a feeling of hopelessness in the air. It's in this dark setting that FDR becomes president and launches the New Deal, a set of programs and reforms that would forever change the relationship between the government and the American people. The New Deal was pure boldness. Public works to create jobs, investments in infrastructure, social assistance programs, and laws to protect workers and regulate the financial system. FDR challenged the dogma of classical liberalism and implemented interventionist policies that saved American capitalism from collapse and laid the foundation for the welfare state. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, was way more than a president. He was an icon, a symbol of youth, hope, and change in a world split apart by the Cold War. His undeniable charisma, his way with words, and his inspiring vision for the future won over America and the world. Kennedy became president in 1961, right in the middle of the Cold War, and he quickly made it clear that the U.S. wouldn't be scared by the communist threat. He challenged the Soviets to a space race, promising to put a man on the moon before the end of the decade, and he created the Peace Corps, a program that would send young Americans to help developing countries. But JFK didn't just compete with the Soviets, he also understood how important diplomacy and talking things out were. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, he stayed calm and negotiated with the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev, preventing a nuclear war that could have destroyed the planet. Yes, you read that right. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, is so important to American history that he deserves to be on our list twice. And it's no accident. His impact on American politics, economics, and society is simply unmatched. No other president faced as many huge challenges as FDR, the Great Depression which knocked the US down, and World War II, a global conflict that changed the world order. And in both cases, Roosevelt showed leadership, courage, and a unique ability to inspire the American people. His legacy goes beyond the programs and policies he put in place. FDR changed how Americans saw the government's role in their lives. He proved that the government could create positive social change, protect the most vulnerable, guarantee basic rights, and promote the well-being of everyone. Hey everyone, did you enjoy that trip through US history? Do you agree with our list of the 10 presidents who changed the game? Did we miss anyone? Leave your opinions in the comments because here on the channel we love a good historical debate. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes. After all, understanding the past is essential to figuring out the challenges of the present, right? So that's it everyone. See you next time and keep exploring the past with us.